Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today I am doing week 2 of my 2021 reads. This week I finished 3 books, all of which were fairly different from each other, but I got a lot out of. So first, I finished The Mom Test by Rob Fitzpatrick, which was a pretty good business book. So this book is just a short little book about how to understand users, how to understand the market that you're trying to reach in business. And basically the premise of this, The Mom Test, is that a lot of people, when trying to find out what people want from their product, will ask them in such a way that the person will respond like a mom and say, oh, of course, that sounds like a great idea, and just sort of give you that false feeling that what you're doing is a good idea and that they want it, even if it's not at all the case, just because they don't want to hurt your feelings. And so this book is all about how to talk to people and find out what they need, what kind of issues they're having, and how to best approach that without getting caught in those conversations where they're giving you sort of false positive feedback just to make you feel good about yourself because they're nice. So I thought that the basic premise of this was pretty good. It had lots of good examples, lots of very, very actionable items in it. I did think that at times it got just a little bit repetitive, and also I think that sometimes there were like just really minor editing issues where I'm not sure if this was self-published or very indie published, but things that with a slightly finer eye to detail could have been caught. Even so, the ideas in this were quite good, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I finished The Citadel of Weeping Pearls by Aliette Bodard. This is a sci-fi novella set in Bodard's Jiyoung universe. She has a lot of different short stories and novellas set in this universe, and it is very, very cool. I've read a number of them before, but this one was outstanding. Recently, Rachel at Kalanadi, who I will link below, read this and talked about how great it was, so I really wanted to pick it up, and I did, and it was so good. So the Jiyoung universe is basically this Vietnamese-inspired far future sci-fi universe where you've got this combo of traditional Vietnamese culture and values, things like a love of poetry and calligraphy and these gorgeous robes and jewelry and all of these things, with also this kind of respect for elders and all of these cultural things, and sci-fi elements that are awesome. Stuff like deep space travel where it's very, very wonky, or things like mind ships where people can give birth to these minds, so they're almost human, but they live in these spaceships and they can handle deep space travel, or things like implants that are basically AI versions of your ancestors who give you advice and that cumulative knowledge. It's just such a cool universe. This story in particular is following a number of different characters who are all trying to find the Citadel of Weeping Pearls. So the Empress of the Jiyoung kind of empire has many daughters, and one of them 30 years ago had gone to the Citadel of Weeping Pearls and was doing really cutting edge science that was a little bit of a threat. And so the mother, the Empress, had kind of said, hey, you got to stop that or else I'm going to have to attack you. And then the daughter made the entire Citadel disappear. And so now they're searching for that, trying to get in contact with the daughter and maybe find some of that lost technology because the empire is under threat. So this whole thing is filled with mystery of what happened to the Citadel of Weeping Pearls. It's filled with so much political intrigue because, there is kind of a murder mystery going on. There is so much in here that is just so compelling. I loved all of the intricacies of it, and there's so much in terms of relationship dynamics and kind of people's motivations. It's so good. I just thoroughly enjoyed this. This is the kind of epic sci-fi that I really, really like, where it's got all of that excellent world building and lots of really cool culture and so much interesting mystery and political intrigue. It's just awesome. So I loved this short novella, and I definitely recommend it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Also, I will mention that sometimes the Jiyoung universe can be a little confusing at times. The way that Bodard writes can be just a little bit vague. So if you're new to the Shoujo universe, just warning you that that may be a little bit unclear at first to you, but I still think it's really excellent and well worth reading. Next, I read Kim Jiyoung, born 1982, by Nam-Joo, translated by Jamie Chang. I buddy read this with Freddie at Sluggish Reader, and it was such a great experience. I always love buddy reading with Freddie because he has really great insight. He reads a lot of literary fiction, and this is literary fiction, and since I'm a little bit newer to that, it helps so much to dissect and analyze what is going on. And there is a lot to think about in this book. So, this book is basically sort of a literary fiction that takes a look at a woman, Kim Jiyoung, who was born in 1982 and follows her through till around 2016. And it follows her life as it unfolds, looking at what has caused a sort of some sort of psychological issue when she is in her mid-30s, where she starts to feel that she is other people and act as them. So this story kind of unfolds her background and takes a look at what has led up to that point. And it is awesome. So this story may not work for everybody because the style of it is a little bit different. It reminds me a lot of the movie Amélie, where you have this third person narrator who is a little bit removed from the characters and is telling you the story almost like a fable or an allegory. And it just unfolds with a lot of information, not just about Kim Jiyoung and little snippets into her life, but also data about Korea, and in particular about women in Korea and gender inequalities. So this book is very much talking about all of these experiences that Kim Jiyoung has had that have shown her coming against the patriarchy, really coming against this systemic inequality that has led to a lot of later issues for her. And I loved it so much. It's infuriating just to read this and see all of those things play out. And reading this really reminded me of Not That Bad, edited by Roxane Gay, which is all about rape culture in the US and really about how the power structures and the treatment of people's bodies and of women in general have led to such toxic relationships, such toxic ways of treating and thinking about women, and have really been designed in many ways to keep women in their place. And I see so many similarities between the essays in that collection and what was in this book. So if you like stories that are really talking about social issues, that are taking a look at a very feminist lens, I think this is excellent. I thought it played out so well, and I just felt so much for Kim Jiyoung, especially the ending just really worked for me. And I looked briefly at a bio for the author, and it seems like she very much wrote this based on kind of her own experiences. And it is heartbreakingly just infuriating, and it's so good. So I loved this very much. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and if I get a chance, I will do a review. Okay, so those are all of the books that I read this week. I also wanted to mention that I am in the middle of doing a weekend reading vlog. I'm recording this Sunday morning, which is typical for me, but my reading vlog is going through until tonight. So that should be up later on this week, and that will include some of these books because I read them or finished them over the weekend. So if you're interested in probably what's going to be a long vlog, that'll be there. But if you guys have read any of these books, if you have any thoughts, any comments, anything at all, go ahead and leave me a comment down below.